I'm Dr. Jeni Haynes. I have multiple personalities, so you're going to meet Jeni Haynes plus today.
The conversation you're about to listen to is almost certainly unlike any interview you've heard before. It's unlike any I've ever done.
I never knew that MPD-DID was going to be the story. I never knew I was going to be the story. We won. We testified in our own alter voices. It was the first time ever. And we won.
Dr Jeni Haynes set a world-first legal precedent when her alters were allowed to testify in court against her abusive father, who was later sentenced to 45 years jail.
From a very young age, Jennifer was subjected to depraved and abhorrent abuse by her father that did cause her significant harm.
Her father, Richard Haynes, told he would serve out the remainder of his life behind bars, 104 before he's even eligible for parole.
Now, her and her 2,000-plus alters are speaking out in a new documentary, We Are Jeni. I'm Ruby Jones, and you're listening to 7am. Today, you'll hear from Dr Jeni Haynes, as well as from some of her alters, in a rare glimpse into multiple personality disorder and how it saved Jeni from her abusive father, who triggered the disorder in the first place. And a warning, while this story doesn't go into graphic detail, it does reference child abuse. It's Tuesday, June 9. So, Jeni, you live with dissociative identity disorder, which used to be known as multiple personality disorder. Could you begin by telling me a bit about what that actually means for you on a kind of day-to-day level?
So I have multiple personality disorder, which is the term I prefer. I know the current one is dissociated identities, but with 2,682 voices in my head, I'll stick to the multiple personalities. Thanks. So for me, living in the world, I am never alone. I always have people chatting to me. Even if I'm sitting in the house on my own, me and my dog, there's lots of conversations going on at the same time because my alter personalities, in essence, do parts of the human experience for me.
Would you be able to maybe introduce me or tell me a bit about some of the main alter personalities that you have?
Oh, sure. So I am what we call the front runner. If you meet Jeni on the street, it's me that you meet, the entity currently known as Jeni. I am the person that holds most of the information that we need to get through a particular day. We've also got access to Mr. Flamboyant's energy for today as well, because as his name, he's quite flamboyant. He only rocks up for interviews. But we have a small number of alters that you would meet on a day-to-day basis, mostly Symphony, because Symphony is the one that created all of us. So she sticks around a lot. She's always here. And she is anywhere between 4 and 18, depending on what task she's doing. She's what we know in the business as an age slider. We also have Muscles, who is our lift it, shift it guy, does all the technical moving of things. He's also runs our democracy, and he's our protector, and he's around a lot. Because we do interviews at the moment, we have Boris. Boris may come along to speak with you. If you hear a Russian accent, it's a trigger warning, because that's what Boris does. He is our walking, talking trigger warning. So if you hear, hello, my name is Boris. I am walking, talking trigger warning. If I say trigger, take me serious. Because, what happened to me is triggering, very triggering. And I don't want to upset anybody.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that, I suppose, goes to the fact that these alters, they were created to help you survive what happened to you in your childhood.
Yes.
Do you mind telling me how you think about that now, about the origins and then the protection that I suppose these alters have provided for you? How do you kind of think about that now?
When we were tiny, Symphony was running the body. She was there the very first time Dad hurt the body, and she protected Jennifer Margaret Linda, the original child, and put her somewhere safe on a beanbag. And then she created all these other people to help protect Jennifer Margaret Linda, the original child. But Symphony is an overachiever. 2,682 times overachiever. And so she made lots of people. And what she did was she worked out that she needed to do whatever it was that Dad wanted done. Now, we're not going to go into any details because I don't want to traumatize the audience. But suffice it to say, Dad is not fun to live with. And she created alters to deal with the things that made it hard for her to do what Dad wanted her to do. And as far as I'm concerned, everything to do with MPD is the single greatest act of self-love you can do, because everything was about protecting Jennifer Margaret Linda and making it easier for us to do what Dad demanded, which was unfriendly, to say the least. So Symphony did so many acts of self-love and love for the original child. And I am blessed. My multiple personalities are a blessing. They're not a disaster. They're not something that we're frightened of or upset by. They're blessings.
Still to come, how Jeni and her alters faced down her dad in court and won. Jeni, can we talk about the court case?
Oh, gosh, yes.
Yeah. So your court case against your father, it set this world-first legal precedent. It was the first time that alter personalities have been permitted to give evidence. So, yeah, tell me a bit about what that was like, the process of going through the court system.
So we went to the police to report my dad, and we went not for justice for Jeni. We went to protect the unknown child, the next child my dad would start to hurt, because he likes doing that. So I went and I told the police exactly and precisely what Dad had done to me, with an eye to making them aware so they could put some form of restrictions on him around children. I didn't realize we were going to go to court. So fast forward 8 years, and 2019, I am ready for court. He has made it to the courtroom, and all of me walked into the room on the first day and stared him down. It was so funny because we were scared to death of him. You know, we thought he was going to walk in looking like he did when we were kids. Only he didn't. He'd shrunk. And we spoke to the prosecutors, and the prosecutors are saying, well, you know, we want you to be free to talk in whichever identity comes up. And, you know, it was at that moment that I realized that the centerpiece of the trial was going to be my DID.
Yeah, so your lawyers, they argued that the existence of your alters, that was essentially proof of what your father had done.
That's right.
Tell me about that.
So you could only get MPD or DID through extreme, ongoing childhood trauma. Most of it comes from childhood abuse. So I walked in and sat myself down ready to testify, and MPD is the centerpiece of our evidence. So the first witness they had was Dr. George Blair West, who set the scene, stating that actually Jeni's MPD is proof of the abuse that she is actually alleging, because you can't get it without trauma. So the judge was faced with, Jeni Haynes has MPD. This is evidence against the man in the dock.
What was that like for you?
Oh, it was wonderful. It was terrifying and wonderful all at once. So when we walked into the court and sat down ready to start to testify, every one of my alters rocked up to take the oath. We all swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And then we sat down, we were ready. And when the prosecutor started asking questions, I'm hearing internally, yeah, that's you're up. You go answer that question. And hang on, you're going to need more details. You go. And it was like all my alters were literally moving inside me to be there to provide their information with the least amount of time delay that we could manage. So if they asked the question, the answer came instantly. We didn't have to sit there and think about it because whoever lived it just came in and answered. So the first alter that rocks up is Symphony. And everybody backs up behind Symphony, ready to pass her information, comfort her, sing for her if things get tricky. The whole system was in that courtroom. And when we testified, Symphony didn't testify to the judge, and she didn't testify to the prosecutor or Dad's lawyer. She stared straight at Dad, and she testified directly to him.
It must have been hard for Symphony, a 4-year-old, to do that.
Hi, Ruby. I'm Symphony. I'm going to answer my question. That's not a question for her. That's a question for me. It was very hard talking in court because we'd been taken into courtrooms before and they were all empty. It's not the same as walking into a courtroom where there's so many people in that room and you don't know any of their names. And it's very frightening to walk into that room and be the witness. But I looked at Daddy and he'd shrunk. And Daddy hides behind the mask of Mr. Respectable. Nobody ever thought I was being hurt because Daddy was respectable. He wasn't an alcoholic or a drug user. He didn't smoke or hang around at the pub. He was Mr. Respectable, so nobody looked at us. So whenever I tried to tell before Judgment Day, I'd not been believed.
Mm. And in court, your dad, he accepted a plea deal and he was sentenced to 45 years in jail. What was that moment like?
Well, before I do that, I just want to say, Daddy listened to me testify for 1 hour and 45 minutes. And then he wanted an adjournment to consider his position. And then when he came back after his adjournment, he pled guilty. But he pled guilty to 25 things and asked for a further 16 to be taken into account. So out of these 85 charges, he was found guilty of 41. But this whole plea thing was really difficult because we had spent the last 2 years with him in Australia, waiting for him to go to trial so we could testify. So 1 hour and 45 minutes of testimony, and then he goes, I'll change my plea to guilty. It felt like he was silencing us. It didn't feel like, oh, gosh, I'm guilty. I ought to own this. No. It felt like, oh, my God, I need to plead guilty to shut her up because if I don't shut her up, then the judge is never going to let me out, which is not the same as remorse. Now, when the prosecutor said to me, he's thinking about pleading guilty, we need to make him an offer. Ah, yes, the delightful offer. Muscles was there for everything to deal with the offer. So instead of him going, I'm guilty, I'll just plead guilty to the whole damn lot, which he should have done, he said he'd plead guilty if certain conditions were met. So even at this stage, the bastard's negotiating. trying to wriggle out of his liability for what he did.
Mm. And he's in jail now. So tell me what that has meant for you. What is your life like?
Well, the judge gave him 45 years in prison, 33 and a third years non-parole period. And she gave me life. She told me he's going to die in prison, hopefully after a long, long time, but he's going to die in prison. So she locked him away and gave me my life back. And that's just been so wonderful. And since locking him away, our life is completely different. When we waived our right to anonymity on the first day of the trial in 2019, all we envisaged was that Dad's name would be allowed to be reported. That's as far as we got. He will be reported. It'll be Richard John Haynes was in court today, not a 74-year-old man was in court today. That's all I wanted. I never thought past that. I never knew that MPD DID was going to be the story. I never knew I was going to be the story. And so since waiving my right to anonymity, since going through the court process and winning, we won. We testified in our own alter voices. It was the first time ever. And we won. I went to court. He got sentenced. I reckon I got the best of it because I've come out with skills and abilities that I can use to help other people. As far as I'm concerned, Judge Sarah Huggett is amazing because by the time I walked out of court in September 2019, Judge Huggett had turned me from a victim to a survivor. And then she gave me the tools to become a thriver and an advocate for my tribe, people who are sexually abused as children and people who suffer the worst of that and become people with MPD DID. So I am so grateful. That judge is a miracle.
Well, thank you so much, all of you, for speaking with me today.
My pleasure. Anything I can ever do to help somebody, I will. Just if you're a survivor or a victim, use my precedent. It's there.
We Are Jeni is available to stream now on SBS On Demand. Also in the news today, Iran has announced plans to reopen the Strait of Hormuz under new conditions to be set by Iran and Oman. It comes as Israel and Iran traded fire overnight. Israel is ignoring calls from Donald Trump not to retaliate against Iranian strikes, instead striking what it says were military targets in western and central Iran. And Anthony Albanese and former Prime Minister Julia Gillard have condemned a $100,000 Ditch the Witch advertising campaign targeting the Victorian Premier Jacinta Allen. Gillard says she's disgusted by the use of the slogan 15 years after it was first used against her, labelling those who commissioned the signs sexist. The owner of a Melbourne brothel targeted in a spate of attacks on Melbourne hospitality venues has confirmed he helped fund the campaign, along with other businesses. I'm Ruby Jones. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back with more 7am tomorrow.